Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Amazon, Apple, and Google Friends or Foes to TecHome Building and Integration session. Please join me in welcoming this morning's sponsor, Christopher Allen, President of iDevices.
How's everybody doing? Morning. Enjoy some breakfast. I'm going to be brief. I think we have a great panel this morning. It's a really interesting topic. Amazon, Apple, Google, friend or foe. A little bit about us. iDevices is actually based here in Connecticut, so welcome to our backyard. We're up in Avon, Connecticut, about an hour north, on a dairy farm, believe it or not. I started the company in 2009, and we've progressed from what our original product was an iGrill, a grilling and cooking thermometer that launched in Apple stores in 2010, told you when your food was ready, into a home automation company that we actually were acquired by Hubble in 2017 in April. So just a year into the acquisition, we are now owned by Hubble, which is again based here in Connecticut, in Shelton, Connecticut. And we are their home automation division, working with Progress Lighting and all the various companies that are out there within Hubble. They have about 64 different brands. The team that you saw on the slide is growing exponentially. We've taken home automation from HomeKit now into Google, into Amazon. So we are across all markets. We don't believe in any one market. My opinion over the last 8 years since I've been doing this has been that we have to provide a solution to everybody. So if you look at our timeline, we were part of DubDub back in 2015 when they launched and HomeKit, and we launched our first product. It was a switch, a smart switch they asked us to make. We didn't get to decide, so they just kind of told us what we were going to make, Apple. And now we've progressed into in-wall switches, dimmers, outlets, thermostats. And we announced an awesome new product that will come out later this year called Instinct. That product is an in-wall Alexa. It's actually invisible to the naked eye, which is where we see the future going. So it's a regular dimmer switch, and it has Alexa built into it. You just talk into the air. We could see these sitting around the home in a number of different ways. So when we look at the future of where we're going, we really see the opportunity to make this technology invisible to the consumer. And when we say that, we have to think about how we address all the markets. So while our initial foray into the market in the in-wall switch and Instinct will be with Alexa, we see that opening up into, obviously Google Assistant and then into Siri as well. I would never bet on any one horse. I'm kind of picking, the three biggest. In my mind, you can't look at them as foes. What they've really done for you, in my opinion, is open up the market in a meaningful way. They've educated the market. They're helping to market for you so that when you have the conversation with the consumer, they understand what you're talking about when you say home automation or smart home or talking with Alexa or Siri or Google Assistant. So let them do that job. They don't want to build houses. They don't want to come in and be this big behemoth of a home builder. But use them for what they're good at. And what we do with our folks, so if you're working with us and our team, which is here and we're displaying, welcome you to stop by the booth, but we tend to partner with folks. We really want to be a partner, and a true partnership means that it's a two-way street. We help you. If there's questions, concerns that you see in the marketplace, we work to address those. We also have a unique feature set that we do 100% of our customer service in-house. So when you're looking at your market and your segmentation of the market, the biggest thing that we found is that you have pushback from pros who want to go install this stuff that say, hey, I don't do this. This isn't my forte. Our customer service is unique in the fact that you can set up appointments. We'll call out to them and actually walk them through how to set this up on site, making their time very efficient, quick, and easy. And then you have nothing to worry about on the back end because our customer service there is, again, there for you when it comes to the consumer actually going into the home and setting it up. They call us, set up an appointment, and we can do that right there with them. Again, 100% US-based actually here in Connecticut. And we're going to keep it that way. So some unique features that we offer to you as a tech company here. We have some awesome new products coming. I'd encourage you to check them out. Check out our website. And I would just say that keep an open mind. It's going to be an evolution. It's not going to be a one-trick pony. It's not going to be a one-horse race. And Apple, Google, and Amazon can be a great friend if you want to partner with them in a meaningful way and exploit them for what they are, right? Great marketers, big companies with billions of dollars that we don't have. Well, some of you may have, but not me. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the panel. Thank you all for coming out. Enjoy your breakfast. I hope you really enjoy the panel and get some great information. We have some great panelists that are going to talk about all the different aspects of this. So enjoy the show. Thank you all.
Good job. Thanks. Let's see. How's my hair look? Okay, pretty good turnout for morning after TecHomeX East after hours. How's everyone doing out there? Let's get the juices flowing. Come on, here we go. All right, thanks for joining us, getting up early. Our topic today: Amazon, Apple, and Google, friends or foes to the TecHome building and integration. Session purpose and flow. Our purpose is to provide expert perspective on the impact of the big three tech companies, Amazon, Apple, and Google, in the smart home space, and an understanding of the opportunities, threats, and the imperatives that they represent. Our flow for the session today, we're going to start off with what we're calling the 3 Ps, a look at the platforms, their present offerings, and their possible evolution in the market space. Carroll will be handling that. We're going to get some hot takes from the rest of the folks on the panel. And then we're going to do panel Q&A, and hopefully we're going to get commentary and opinions and questions from you at the end. Let's make this interactive, because this is a topic where a lot of us have opinions and questions. Let's have an open discussion and debate. I am John Galante. I'm president of AE Ventures. I'm going to moderate. Our lead presenter will be Jim Carroll, right to the left of me here. He is the principal at Connected Home Advisory, a consulting company for the industry. And then the other panelists will be Felicia Ratka. Did I get it right?
Got it right.
Okay. Who is the president of TBI Smart Home Solutions, which is a subsidiary of Toll Brothers. Tom Callahan is president of Sawyers Control Systems in Frenchtown, New Jersey, also a past chairman of the Consumer Technology Association's TecHome division. And then Brad Smith is down on the far left, batting cleanup. He is the president of Audio Video Design in Westwood, Mass., a suburb of Boston. And with that, I want to go ahead and turn it over to Jim for the lead presentation.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to start off by just doing a bit of level set about platforms. And what's interesting is people use that word platform pretty loosely. And this discussion around these big three, we're really talking about the platform as a marketplace, right? They've kind of redefined markets. Formal markets that you would think of, like this picture, they go back 3,000 years BC. And they've always been managed and run by demand-side economics, right? With supply and demand, the best price, the best value, those purveyors win the market, right? Best product wins. Well, we've seen a significant shift, and something interesting is going on today with these platforms, in that they're multi-sided platforms. There's multiple customers participating with this piece of software, if you will, in the middle, right? We're all familiar with these players and what they do. I just want to take a quick minute and talk a little bit about Uber, because it really drives home the point about the strength and what we call the governance of a platform. So what's happened is the free market's been displaced by these type of solutions, and the owner of those solutions, in this case Uber, manages the governance, right? This demand side and how pricing is going to happen and how that plays has dramatically changed. And this happened seemingly overnight, right? So in the Uber case, there's two customers that we're really aware of, right? There's the customer, us, we hail a cab, we hail an Uber, we think that we're the customer. Well, the drivers are also customers of Uber, right? So both sides of that market, they have customers, and they sit in the middle arbitraging revenue off of both sides. And their governance, they manage this pretty religiously, right? You get out of the car, you give the guy a 5-star rating. The guy also gives you a rating, or the woman, right? So when you hail an Uber, you want to get to the airport, if you're a 5-star rider, they'll match you up with 5-star cars. If you're a 1-star, you get a 1-star. So the better their drivers are, the better routes those guys get, and they get to benefit from higher pricing, right? So it's interesting, there's something called network effects, and this is how all these platforms work. I'm not going to go into gory detail here, but it's really the more drivers they have, the more riders they'll get, because the wait times go down, the availability of better drivers. The more customers they get, the more drivers want to drive. So it's kind of like a flywheel. You get the inertia going, and the kinetic energy in that wheel just takes over for itself, and it just keeps building. So you think in this Uber case, they got passengers, they got drivers, and now they've added another dimension to that with Uber Eats. So all of a sudden, there's another customer shows up, the restaurants, right? And they participate in this network effect very much in the same way. Now, again, keep in mind that this isn't a free market. Uber decides, picks winners and losers here. They decide who gets what ratings. They decide what riders get immediate response and what drivers get the best routes. So all these platforms operate in this very similar manner. What's interesting, last night, kind of lead into our discussion about Amazon and Apple, Amazon announced a experience center program with Lennar, and they're going to build out these experiences across the country, right? So we saw Amazon announce, was it a year ago, that they're going to have this in-home consulting for free, really designed to sell you more stuff, right? But they're acknowledging, I think, at one level, I think it's an important topic here, that this do-it-yourself stuff really needs a vetted pro contractor to put it in, right? We'll touch on that a little bit more. So let's look at the three, Amazon, Google, and Apple. And none of these businesses are in the business of the smart home to make a great smart home experience. They all have a different angle to it. Amazon, obviously, with their store, they want to sell stuff that they have in inventory and be a marketplace for non-inventory items. The Alexa solution, in my opinion, is just one of the multimodal ways to do that. You can buy stuff through your Amazon app on your phone, you can get online, and now you can talk to Alexa. Now, how do they keep Alexa relevant for you? No different than ADT or Comcast. Sell smart home, attach gadgets to it, people will get more committed to it, and you'll use it to continue to buy stuff, right? Smart refrigerators can order through Alexa a water filter when the water filter gets dirty, right? So it's not a strategy that says, I don't think anyone at Amazon is getting up every day saying, I want to go build the best home automation product. They're thinking to themselves, how do I build a home automation product that will enable more sales? And keep in mind, like with Uber, Amazon manages the governance here, right? Their 5-star rating, what gets sold together, that's all up to Amazon. You may do a lot of research and pick the best TV, but when you go to check out, they sell you a $100 HDMI cable. They also sell $50 cables, but they're going to show you that $100 one. So they may have a lot of inventory of it. They want you to sell it. They make more money off it. You throw it right in. You don't vet that next decision out. An Apple TV or Amazon Fire Stick, right? It just all kind of makes its way into the cart. Google has monetized advertising, right? So they show you ranked advertisers, and they have smart homes, so you can do the same thing, a multimodal process, other than just Googling from your phone. It's another method, but they decide based on paid rankings what you see first. So it's not that marketplace we talked about in the beginning. It's not this freewheeling market. It's really a managed, controlled, what they want you to have based on their corporate needs, right? Apple's a little bit different in that it's really about them selling iOS devices, right? So their platform is iOS, right? They do home automation because they want to keep iOS relevant in the home, right? They want you to buy stuff, in-app purchases, and they want you to buy stuff through the Apple stores. That enabling factor is the iOS platform and their ability to sell more of those devices. I think before the week's out, they might be $1 trillion company, right? Market cap. So it's interesting that all three of these players are in the space. I think we all benefit by their presence here, right? There's a significant halo effect of them doing this. You know, I started in this industry about 14 years ago. We started a business called Savant. I think the global market was worth about $1 billion, right? This connected home, smart home space is now measured in trillions of dollars globally. Companies like this have brought broad awareness to all consumers that this is in play. and available to everybody. And this is, whoops, back up. And the real game here for all three of these players is they have you with a shopping cart, and they want you to put more devices into that, right? So they're just increasing the overall wallet share with every purchase is their main thrust. It's not about having a great user experience. It's not about helping you get it installed until recently with Amazon, right? So I think for everybody in this room and for the consumer, there's a lot of frustration ahead for you here, right? It's, I did some work with an analyst a couple of years ago, do-it-yourself devices, and interesting thing that stuck in my mind, their results said 80% of the thermostats, smart thermostats that get sold, get installed by a professional contractor. So they buy it at Home Depot, they buy it on Amazon, people give up and they bring somebody in to install it for them, right? So this do-it-yourself market, I don't think is focused as would be led to believe. Touched on this a little while ago. So about a year ago, Amazon kicks off this free consulting for your smart home, right? Amazon badged employees, going to give you time, it's free, and they're there to sell you more stuff, obviously, right? Help you hook up what you have. And they were open that they're going after Best Buy and Geek Squad. Well, last week in the Journal, guess what? Amazon and Geek Squad are hooking up. So now Best Buy is going to help Amazon install devices. I think both these efforts are further validation that this cannot be done by a do-it-yourself market. There's a need for professional contractors, whether they're security guys, CDR integrators, electricians, whoever those contractors are. Most of this goes beyond that capability of your average person. The enthusiast will do it, but I don't think there's this big do-it-yourself smart home market that these outlets would love you to believe. So what does this mean to us? Kind of in closing, this is designed to hopefully stimulate some discussion. Again, I think the broad market awareness is a huge plus that we achieve through all of this with these guys. Brings challenges, though, right? Prices are dropping. There's a sense that there's disintermediation of the pro contractor, that you don't need that. That puts a lot of pressure on the business plans, the business models that exist today, right? As you know, consumers, and I know most of this crowd is custom high-end guys, real customers see these ads. They know what some of these things cost. So when you try to sell them a $400 thermostat, you really got to be on your game and explain to them why this is better than a Nest or an Ecobee, right? What that experience is like, and that focused on experience. I think there's a lot of pressure on the brand manufacturers. You really have to bring more value to why your brand, right? Why your device is important enough to warrant a premium price, right? The contractors obviously have to continue to demonstrate and not try to sell against these devices, but be inclusive and give an honest comparison of why this device versus that, right? And I think maybe the most disruptive thing we're going to see is 5G, right? As 5G looks like it's becoming a reality over the next 2 years, it's going to change a lot of the dynamics for everybody involved in the whole supply chain. That's what I had for us today.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. So let's turn to the panel now, and I'd like each of you to provide a snapshot of you and your company and your play in this home tech space, and then give us your take on each of the tech titans, friends or foes, what kinds of opportunities and threats do they represent, and how are they changing the game? Felicia, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So TBI Smart Home Solutions, like John said, is a wholly owned subsidiary of Toll Brothers. We're a national home builder building in 20 states. The division was created in 1995 strictly as a security monitoring company, and the goal was to generate a revenue stream for the company for long after the buyer actually closes on the home. From its inception, we've monitored over 45,000 accounts. We market strictly to Toll Brothers home buyers, and we work with probably 45 to 50 integrators across the country who are contracted to do the service, installation, and the maintenance on all the security and low voltage options and features that we offer and sell in our home. So to the question of friends or foe, I think a little bit of both. We've had the opportunity to meet with all three companies, Apple, Google, and Amazon. And we'd be foolish not to. These companies are all powerhouses in their own right, and they are bringing such a mass awareness to the smart home space. And so, it's great that they're getting buyers to talk about smart homes and connected homes, and it no longer needs to be a $100,000 system. But for a builder, we look at what's best for our buyer, what's the platform that works best for our buyer. And so all three of the companies, some of their features and their offerings work and some don't, but you have to structure it in who is your market, who's your demographic, and what are their needs, and what do you want to offer them. So far as opportunities, I think we can all appreciate the mass awareness that these companies are bringing to us. And then I think it's us and our responsibility, either as builders or as integrators, perception is 99% reality, right? And so if you are a full systems integrator or a builder that's looking to offer some sort of a smart home solution, it's our job to educate the buyer and understand first what their needs are, but then also educate them on what a true smart home experience is. And that's going to be unique for each person and client that you touch. So, for us, we try to look at each of our buyers' needs and capitalize on the fact that, yes, there is such an awareness now and buyers are talking about it, which is great.
Great, thank you so much. Tom, how about you?
My name is Tom Callahan. I'm the founder of Sawyers Controls. We've been in this industry for 30 years. And it's interesting what's happening now in this space. Friend or foe is, it's a double-edged sword. We find that the consumer awareness side of what's being brought to the marketplace is, you can't argue with that. Our customers are demanding this tech now. They're demanding to say, hey, I want that video doorbell. I want to have those cameras. I really want to have a monitored security system, but I want to have the sex appeal that goes with that. So we've seen this really disrupt our business model. We're more of a traditional player where we wired houses. We brought things down into our basements. We have racks. That's really labor intensive and expensive. And when you're putting in a $100,000 system and the end solution is what we've marketed and what we've had as a business plan for many decades, that's changed. When I can put in a Ring doorbell and all of a sudden I've got a video interface with my customer, they like that. When Amazon starts marketing the fact that they can do package deliveries and open up the lock at the front door, again, it's hard to argue with what that can do to your consumer. So we're trying to navigate that disruption. We're trying to say, all right, how do we go from our traditional model and embrace these players? And we're still evolving. We're not quite there yet. Each week we have a new challenge or a new product that we have to integrate into our offering. So our approach has been that we are partnering with them, and we're typically getting professionally certified. And that gives us basically a 10%, 15% reduction on retail cost. And we tell our customer that we're going to charge you 10 or 15% over what you can buy it on Amazon. And so we're making a 30% margin, which is what we consider to be reasonable. And we're basically paying our techs to learn. And we tell our customer, quite frankly, we don't know this stuff as well as we do other devices. And they work with us. They want to hire a professional to do this tech. As Jim was saying, most people they like this stuff, but they don't want to put it in. They don't have time to put it in. They don't want to learn the nuances of what it's going to take to adapt this and make it go onto their phone and make all the apps be effective. So like I said, we're evolving. I consider them an opportunity, but they're also a threat. They're disrupting our way of doing business. We certainly see differences on margins when you could buy this stuff online. And we're trying to adapt and make sure that we could still be profitable, still be effective, and still be delivering what we feel differentiates our company, which is the customer experience. So they still want to have us as their go-to company.
Thanks, Tom. Brad, how about you?
What he said.
That's not being a good analyst.
Yeah. These are all, these are very different companies here. Actually, Jim's dealt with all all these sizes of companies. And audio video design, I've been doing this for 36 years. I took over my father's alarm company when he passed away. And I feel like I've seen a lot. I know you guys have also. So I'd say on the one hand, this is extremely disruptive, but on the other hand, I've seen a lot of disruptive stuff over the years. I sold my alarm division a year ago because I thought it had gotten to the point where it was so disruptive that I was going to lose a lot of my account base. And I've had arguments here at this event, good arguments, healthy arguments with people, particularly the manufacturers of alarm system products that are now segueing into home systems products. I believed a year ago, and I still believe, that there's going to be massive attrition in the traditional alarm sector. Our attrition was increasing. We were a high-quality company, really servicing the heck out of our customers. But we'd get calls from people saying they had changed to Simply Safe, or they had, with their $14.95 monitoring, or they had changed to, they had decided to just to get rid of the old system and put in a bunch of parts and pieces from Nest, and that was satisfactory. So I saw that as a harbinger of things to come. Only time will tell if I'm right, but there were a lot of things over the years that didn't scare me. So once upon a time, AT&T got into the alarm business, and a lot of people were really scared about that. Here's Lennar that's monitoring, what'd you say, Felicia, 40,000 accounts?
Well, Toll Brothers. But
Toll Brothers. Yes. Sorry, Toll Brothers, yeah. So I don't know if Lennar's doing it or any other companies are doing it. Time Warner got into the business. So, 36 years, I saw a lot of disruptive activity. So the first thing I would say is, this is disruptive, but don't panic. So then the second thing I would say is, how are we dealing with this as a company, and how should, and we're a mixed group in here. There's electrical contractors in here. Obviously, there's a lot of builders here. I've had a lot of good discussions with builders, and I think this is a very valuable event because you're getting these completely objective perspectives from the other side of the table. So I'm an integrator, but boy, it's been great listening to builders talk about how they see this, how they're concerned about getting into what they have to do to meet the market demand, and not just Toll Brothers, but the small builders out there. I think there's a threat. There's a big threat. I feel like every day I get up, and I was once an expert, and I get up in the morning, and I know I'm going to talk to somebody that day who thinks they know more about the Internet of Things than I do. I mean, it could be it could be the 18-year-old who is our helper at the company, the guy who fetches the coffee. This kid knows a ton of stuff, and he's reading all the trade magazines. And I talk to friends who are putting this stuff in their own homes, and I'm insulted they haven't even called me to get my advice. So this is an extremely disruptive time. But I think the main thing is that you got to know your customer, and you got to think like your customer. So that's the most important thing, is knowing who your customer is and then thinking like your customer. Who are they? What income bracket are they in? What age group are they in? What are they looking for in their home? And how can you serve their needs? Ultimately, if we're not a mass marketer, ultimately, if we're not a retailer, then we're in the customer care business. And the most important thing is to know your customer and be able to figure out what they need and navigate the process for them. Embrace this new technology. Don't fight it. Don't sell against it. Don't go negative, but embrace it, include it. Do what Tom said. Tell them about it if they want it. Tell them you'll put it in. You have to charge for your time to deal with it, or ask them to buy it and provide it to you. But the bottom line is know your customer, embrace the technology, don't go negative, and make your money and figure out how to make your RMR on your service and on your managed service, such as IHG and all these other monitoring systems for all the products that we're installing.
Yeah. So the plan was for us to drill down manufacturer platform by platform with some insights. But just listening to this panel, I want to jump to a topic of owning this customer for the long term, right? Because if you look at all three of these players, they don't want to just have a transaction and be done. They want to have a lifetime of transactions. And my question to integrators and builders, you create these customers, right? You create that homeowner customer, you create that home technology customer, but are you going to be able to fight for them as a long-term customer that you own as much of these as these platform providers want to own them? And with all of the resources that they have to try to own those customers for life, are you a Trojan horse for bringing them in on a long-term customer relationship that you're going to get a diminishing share of over time? So that, to me, I think is one of the big questions here. Does anyone have a response on that?
Interestingly enough, our customer is really our customer. And when we're looking at Nest and when we're looking at Alexa, what we're seeing is they want to hire us to bring the technology. To them, the products are more commodity, and they don't really care, per se, what that commodity is. They want the tech to work. They don't necessarily need it totally integrated. They don't necessarily need the brand. They recognize the brands, but for us, they're hiring us, and they're trusting our expertise and our experience to deliver that tech to them.
Mm-hmm. And really, they're looking for you to deliver that user experience, and that's how you hang on to them, right? Because these platform providers really can't deliver an experience. Brad just touched on Easy and Domouts, right? Changing and evolving the business model that you get paid on an ongoing concierge type of basis to manage that environment and ensure them that they're having that great experience, right? I think that's the real win for the builders, for the homeowners, and for the electrical contractors, whether it's low voltage, high voltage, right? It's really owning that experience for them.
Right,
You're unique as a home builder, Toll Brothers, in terms of having the vision 23 years ago to put monitoring in place and to really want to have a long-term customer relationship. Most builders have wanted to flee once the punch list is done.
We certainly didn't take the easy route, right?
Yeah.
But we make our integrators, we don't look at them as just subcontractors. They're strategic partners of ours. They meet with our buyers in the design studio process. They sit down with our buyers. They sell them all of their low voltage options. They educate the buyer. And when they're selling our home buyers these smart home systems and platforms, they're also hanging their flat screen TVs for them. They're setting up their home network. So they really are creating a customer for life. And when you have that interaction throughout that build time, it really creates a unique relationship. And so our integrators are able to continue and form that relationship after the buyer moves in, because they're the ones that are in there setting up their network after they've moved in, and it's not uncommon for buyers to move in and 2 months later call the integrator and say, hey, I want to add something that I didn't think that I would need. So I think if you know your buyer and know what their interests and needs are, that you can craft that relationship, and that goes a much longer way than ordering something online or having, the smart home service, the smart home expert service is a 90-day warranty. Every single integrator in this room can compete with that, and you've probably spent more time talking to your buyers about what you're going to install in their homes. And so I don't think that that's an area that will get lost in this mix.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say that for a lot of years in this industry, we preached that we should be the brand. That's still true with a builder, I think. It's really tough for builders these days because once upon a time you owned a market. If you were in Weston, Massachusetts, you were the builder that everybody used in Weston, Massachusetts. But that's not the case anymore. For integrators, for so many years we'd like to say that we were the brand, but I think it's evolved. I think we're now the trusted advisor. I think brand names are really important now. I mean, look at this casino. Everything is, there's a brand name everywhere. So as a company, we're trying to bring more brand names in. We're trying to embrace the brand name concept and not try to fight that and not try to be the brand name, but be the trusted advisor. So to tell people that we have all of these products, and as a company we have a lot more products than a lot of our competitors, Not because we can't make up our minds, but because we really believe that if we keep the word custom in custom electronics, we need to provide those brands. Now, there's more brands than ever before, and that makes it very difficult. The other thing is that we live in this age right now, I think, that I call the age of good enough. You know, if it's a good B quality or B minus like Sonos, for most people it's good enough. But is that our customer? If there's builders, I've talked to builders here who are doing $5 to $7 million spec houses. So is Sonos, I don't mean to pick on Sonos, but is Sonos, that's the biggest brand right now that we can all talk about, and people walk in with Sonos branded on their forehead the way they used to come in with Sony or Bose branded on their forehead. But is that the best in-class product? So as a company servicing the high end, more or less, I always want to make sure my customer knows that we have that good enough product, but we also have the best in-class product. And the Amazon and the Google and the Apple in the home sector are never going to be the best in-class product. They're also ephemeral. They're changing constantly. They're not, what we have today is not going to be around a year from now, and we need to, both builders and system integrators, need to make sure that they're conveying to the customer the importance of the longevity of what's going into that house. In a home, you don't want to have to change this stuff all the time. You want something that's going to last, like your furnace, for 10 to 20 years.
Cool. All right, let's drill down on these individual players one by one. We're going to start with Apple. So it is the most successful manufacturing company on the planet ever. Consumers and builders love the brand, but here we are in the midst of what I would call the smart home gold rush, and the Apple HomeKit ecosystem is small. Just a few dozen manufacturers are complying with HomeKit and its validation chip requirements. There is no army of integrators and contractors training on how to deploy seamless integrated HomeKit solutions. Nonetheless, we have a lot of builders waiting for Apple to arrive. So how long are we going to, defer aggressive action on the smart home, especially with on the builder side of things? Waiting for Apple and HomeKit to arrive is something more than, I would say, a handful of press releases and some focus groups. Tom, do you want to take that?
So curiously, we really don't do much with Apple. We do partner and do work with, obviously, the Google platforms and Amazon, but we think that Apple's a little bit late coming out of the gate. They really aren't coming to market in any major press releases. So from our business perspective, you look at it and you wonder what's going on in Google's research and development. I mean, they have huge resources, the highest market cap in the world. They know the space, so I'm not quite sure why they're so far behind. They're a very product-centric company, but not so much of a consumer-centric company. So I think that plays a little bit different on the consumer experience, and so we're waiting to kind of see how they evolve. Yeah. So in my opinion, Google or Apple really needs to try to kind of catch up, and they have huge resources. So I would certainly expect that they will play in our market space quite a bit. On top of that, they have a huge customer base. The number of people with iPhones and Apple products and the OS operating systems. I mean, it's amazing. So yes, they're going to be a threat, but I think right now they're the third horse in the race.
Yeah, Felicia, what do you think?
Agreed. We met with Apple, and we really wanted to understand. And Apple's a huge brand. It would be great to partner with them. But when we looked at what the needs were for our buyers, first of all, you look at what iOS market share is, right? And so immediately we're cutting out 50% of the buyers walking into our sales office. I use my own household as an example. I'm an Android user, my husband's an iPhone user. So I wouldn't want to offer or standardize on a HomeKit platform that only half of our buyers could use. The other piece to that is, when we look to create a true smart home experience for our buyers, we want whatever platform we offer. We offer two platforms, actually. We standardize on Alarm.com for our entry-level solutions using the security system as that hub. And then we also standardize on Control4 solutions when buyers want to integrate audio and video. And so the key, I think, is looking at a smart home platform that's brand agnostic, that buyers can bring their own devices to, that you don't have to fit buyers into a one-size-fits-all mold. And as to your point earlier about the limited number of devices for us, we weren't going to change the specs on, say, our garage doors that we offered or installed because it didn't work with HomeKit. And so for us, the scope was just too small for what we wanted to be able to offer to our buyers.
So this may be an instance where that closed, gated ecosystem concept that Apple has had historically is kind of shooting them in the foot.
Yeah,
It could apply for music consumption and some of these other applications for their technology products, but this might be a space where it just ain't going to work to have that much. You should have an opinion on this. You've played in the space as a
agree with
manufacturer.
Felicia, and at Savant, we were Apple-centric, right? We did all the Apple stores, we did all their conference rooms and a lot of their executives' homes. And I think Felicia's right, their iOS or nothing else approach is a hindrance. And I think they're become a bit of a victim of their own success, right? They've historically gone into different segments of markets to dominate them. And sometimes they just had a good enough product, plant the Apple flag, and people would flock to it. They're not having that success here, right? This is a little more involved, right? They're not in control of this whole ecosystem, right? Their platform just simply isn't that powerful to dominate that space.
Okay, let's turn to Google in the form of Nest. They are probably most closely aligned with the traditional channels. They have courted the installation and contracting channels, and there's no doubt that the Nest thermostat really took a product category out of the shadows. I always thought that that was a killer application waiting to happen, and they gave it some sex appeal and some breathing room from a marketing perspective, and now it's really become something of a must-have. But my question on Google Home and Nest is staying power. So Google spent $3.2 billion to acquire Nest 4 years ago, and then according to an analysis of Alphabet's most recent investor communications, they lost $750 million on the Google family of products last year. And really, what do they have to show for it? I mean, that's a very sexy, popular product, but in terms of functionality, it's got lots of competitors on the thermostat side of things with much deeper channel ties. You've got a smoke detector, an alarm system that has great industrial design, but then again, no true huge differentiator as a feature set. And so how long are they going to burn cash like this? We heard that they spent the money they did on Nest to have a data stream that would inform their search engines and what have you, but I mean, really, how much is that worth in the long term, and how long can you keep burning cash? So you've done work in the manufacturing space. I'd really be interested in your.
I think it's interesting, because they did take a very boring category and make it really interesting. And for connected devices, thermostats lead the way, right? There are more thermostats than any other category in homes. But Nest isn't even number 2 in that market, right? The other players still have a dominant position there. I think that's why you've seen them expand into smoke detectors and cameras and trying to get out of just the thermostat. They're not getting enough data, right?
Yeah.
And they're relatively closed in their implementation, right? From a control system standpoint, you're only allowed to keep 2 days of their data. So all of a sudden, you can't do a lot of things that if it's a Control4 system with their thermostat you could do, or a Alarm system or URC, right? These integrators at this level can offer a much better experience using the proprietary thermostats that come with the control systems than what you get from a Nest product, right? So it's interesting, but Nest was also the first do-it-yourself guys to go develop a pro channel as well, right? So they figured out a way to try to get some margin to the dealers, trying to be more integrator sensitive, right? We saw Amazon obviously do it more recently, but they were the first to kind of acknowledge this really isn't a do-it-yourself business, right?
Right.
It's because they saw that data, 80% of their thermostats are installed by pro contractors. So, it's interesting.
Any other Google Nest comments? You're using the products, but
So I personally don't like the Nest products that I put into my own home, but I did it to see how they would work and see what the user interface is. But my comment would be, my generation and the next generation below me don't seem that as interested, but the millennials seem very interested. I have a lot of nieces and nephews who call me for advice on all this, and they all want to be do-it-yourselfers, and a lot of them are doing very well financially. But they, oftentimes even before they talk to me, they've gone out and they've bought Nest products. So Nest is big right now, so I don't know nothing about how much money they're making or their burn rate or anything like that, but I wouldn't be as pessimistic in predicting their demise. And it's a significant product that we got to deal with, and I think, again, I said earlier, we embrace it if they want it. We put it in. Ideally, you know, if we need to make money on it, we can buy it now through our channels. But I'm more inclined to have the client buy it and provide it to us so that when they decide that it's not good enough and they want us to then replace those thermostats and those whatever else, and we do it for them, they own the Nest. I don't want to have to return all those Nests. So that's my take on it.
yeah. Okay, let's. This is probably the juiciest one. Let's talk about Amazon, because there's Alexa, which is a product family, but then there's Amazon as a company, and there's some really interesting analysis out there now about Amazon's capital advantages, the fact that Wall Street has really given them a pass on profitability for 20-some years. They only need to earn $1 billion in profit, and Walmart needs to earn $12 billion to maintain their stock price or have it grow. So they've got huge hoards of cash that they can deploy to disrupt and in many cases destroy industries, and they've used that capital advantage and their business and tech know-how to disrupt traditional brick and mortar retail. Many would say they are systematically destroying it piece by piece. My question is, are they going to buy up a bunch of technology integrators and monitoring centers, turn the $30 to $80 in monitoring and managed service fees into an add-on in an Amazon Prime membership? Are they going to be e-tailing real estate and modular homes, or use their distribution and project management capability to actually enter and dominate new home construction? I mean, these are all possibilities with somebody sitting on that sort of cash hoard and with those sorts of customer relations.
And they're big enough to check all those boxes.
Yeah.
They could do it all.
Yeah, they got the money to do it. They could buy a bunch of builders, or they could buy a bunch of modular builders, and what do you think?
Well, I mean, to go to Jim's point earlier about Uber, there are so many companies, and this fascinates me, and I don't have an answer for it, but there are so many companies today that have such huge valuations, yet they're not making any money, and in some cases, losing money. You know, you've got Uber, you've got Redfin, you've got, you know, the Airbnb, and so you've got these companies that have these huge valuations, and it's yet to be seen what the end game is going to look like. So again, far smarter people than me are controlling those financial sheets, so we'll see what happens. But you know, I think you never say never with Amazon. I personally don't get so concerned about losing the RMR and the market share on that component. You know, Amazon has 6,000 Alexa engineers. And in our conversations, I mean, I don't think that it's anything with Amazon's secret sauce to say that, you know, their goal is to get as many Echo endpoints and devices in a home as possible. And when you stop to think about why, it comes back to data. You know, they're collecting this data, and the easiest way to obtain that information is to attach to smart home devices and how people are living. And so I don't get so concerned about the revenue loss. I don't think that they're looking to take that RMR away. But there's a reason that they've got so many engineers that are focusing on Alexa devices, and they have this huge push to get these devices in the homes.
Right.
So I think at the end of all this, whether it's you know, Amazon or Google or Apple, whoever controls that data, I think will be at the top of the pyramid. I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon makes a play to become, a search engine to rival Google, and that's where Google makes their money, on their search engine. So their e-commerce platform is definitely not where Amazon makes their money. It's on their web services. So I think if Amazon is in a position to, one, own that data, and then two, also have the search engine capabilities, who's to say what comes after that?
What's kind of interesting is they're more interested in having the Alexa service in the house than the Dot, right?
They don't make any money on that.
Yeah.
They can't.
Our sponsors, iDevice, they've got a device that's got Alexa capable, right? Amazon would rather have iDevices, put one of those in every house than have consumers buy a Dot. Right? They're after the data, not the sale of the device.
Yeah. What do they do with that data? I mean, they sell stuff, right?
They sell stuff.
Then when they see something is selling well, what do they do?
Well, we
They start
talked a little
making
bit-
it, right?
They either make it or they manipulate the market to their ends, right? I mean, they're all about transactions and about their web service.
They're like distributors that are owned by manufacturers in this space, right?
A little bit of analogy to that, but it's got more to do with selling their web services and their e-commerce capabilities, right? It's less to do about that experience. My personal experience, my first Florida home was all Alexa-based with light switches and everything else. We just bought a new home with this nice big alarm system in it. My wife saw that Alexa come out of the box. She was like, "No, not in this house. I'm done with that," right? I can't remember what you called that light. You have to be so specific and articulate about it.
Yeah.
It really became a real bad user experience.
Yep.
And that poor lady's lived through a lot of beta products through the years, right? So when she puts her foot down and says, "No, on this one," you got to listen to her, right?
The line.
Brad, what do you think? I mean, could Amazon, you're already worried about attrition on the monitoring piece.
Yeah, it's gonna cut into our pie. Back in the late 80s when ADT came out with its $9.99 system, its $9.11 system, its $3.99 system, eventually its $99 system, and then in Florida there was the scot-free system. That ate a big chunks. So this is really a comment for the integrators, not for the builders. So I think we need to be, it's a threat. It's absolutely a threat. We are going to lose some market share. You're always looking at the pyramid. You're always trying to figure out where you are in that pyramid, both as a builder as an integrator. But I think the integrators are going to see Amazon services eating away at the edges of what we consider to be our pyramid. But if I'm a builder, I want that house that and the builders are married to their houses too. Most builders now have a division called maintenance services or customer care. You're married to your customer for a lot of years. You want to be. You want to be building their next house. You want to be doing the addition. You want to do all the renovations. So you don't want ephemeral products in that house that are always causing you headaches. You want a solid foundation. And none of these products that we're talking about right now are a solid foundation. They should be seen as add-ons to a solid system. So ideally, as a builder, you want to put in that solid foundation, which is a real integrated system, not a decentralized system that's made up of parts and pieces that are mixing Apple with Android, with Google. And I've been doing this for 36 years. Tom's been doing it a long time. Jim's been doing it a long time. My God, when are we ever going to have standardization in electronics? I don't think in my lifetime. So again, if I'm a builder, I want a solid foundation, and the rest of this stuff is toys enhancing that foundation. The other thing I just comment on is the privacy issue. I'm amazed that more people aren't concerned about privacy. We're starting to see an increase in the concerns about privacy. But in my own home, I want to be able to turn on and off those devices. I don't want them listening in on me when I'm there. I don't want them watching me when I'm there. I don't want them collecting my data any more than necessary. So I want that solid foundation. I want to be able to turn off Alexa and turn off the Nest Cam and so forth,
Yeah.
or not the Nest Cam, the Control 4 Cam, in order to be able to know that I have privacy when I'm in my own home. And if you turn that stuff off, you still have to be able to operate that system. So you need the real centralized, integrated product.
Good point. All right, well, why don't we see if there's some comments, opinions, or questions from the audience? Somebody has to have an opinion on this set of topics. Somebody have a question on this set of topics?
Back here.
Is there anybody out there?
Hi.
Okay.
I have a question. It seems that Amazon in particular is well positioned to get a foothold in and potentially dominate the smart lighting market. But given the physical installation aspect / challenge, seems they would have to partner with builders in order to achieve that. I'm looking for some thoughts, opinions, and clarity around that prospect.
Can you elaborate on what you mean on the smart lighting side of things?
Well, sure. So if you want to have dimmers and keypads in a home that give you general smart lighting capability, so push one button and all the lights go off at night, or scheduled lighting control, et cetera. You need smart lighting devices to be installed, and of course, you can accomplish this through Control4 and Savant and Crestron, and even in the DIY market, there are options from Leviton and a ton of Z-Wave manufacturers. But the obstacle there, from a DIY perspective, is ultimately those devices can't really feasibly be installed by the DIY homeowner because of we're talking about a line voltage. It's a line voltage installation. So if it weren't for that, you'd think that Amazon could bring to market their own smart lighting devices and sell it in droves, and the customers would install it themselves, and initially they would interact with it through Alexa, and it would be hooray. But we do have the challenge of the physical installation. So if you start at the beginning of the life cycle where a home is being built, that seems like the opportunity for Amazon to overcome that obstacle. But I'm not exactly sure how that would work and if it's feasible.
Right. So I guess the thing to do is talk about the Amazon-Lennar relationship and what level is that at?
At the basic level, though, you know, the Amazon business model, there's two challenges in a pre-construction home. First one, I don't think they want to build devices. They're pushing hard to have other people incorporate their microphones to be able to do that. Secondly, for Amazon to put stuff in a home, they almost need that homeowner's account to be able to do that, to enable that technology, right? Because now who's buying it? Is it the homeowner? Because they want to have the relationship with the homeowner, and that's not necessarily with the builder. Right. Right? Because their purpose is to get you to buy stuff off their web services, not to sell your device.
So they do have a relationship with Lennar. It's at the press release level and all these announcements. So what's the reality of that offer? It's not terribly extensive, right? I mean, there's a Wi-Fi, certified Wi-Fi network, and some voice control, basic control like video doorbell, et cetera. Nothing expansive, and then the promise of a Amazon-approved service provider coming in and outfitting the rest of the home, which how many real integrators are hooked into that service? And
to the gentleman's point, that consultant company isn't going to start touching high voltage stuff.
Right.
Right.
And you know, with Amazon, they so last year at CEDIA, Amazon announced that they were partnering with CEDIA certified integrators specifically for the scenario that was just laid out. So the whole smart home expert is plug and play, right? They come in, they plug in all these devices, and they enroll them on the Wi-Fi network. And that's the extent of it. When it goes beyond that point, Amazon recognized that their smart home experts are not that person. And so they've reached out to the CEDIA network to say, hey, look, register with us. And if we have a buyer that is, or if we have a customer that is looking for, instead of plug-in devices, they want those actual wired switches or dimmers, we're going to refer you now to a CEDIA certified integrator that wants to partner with Amazon. So, you know, it's a space that they recognize that is not one that they want to own in that respect.
My question is always, what's beyond the press release, right? These things get announced. Then now how many true custom integrators are actually hooked into that network versus a satellite TV installer who's hooked into that network. And there are plenty of op-eds in the trade publications about, don't do a deal with the devil, because ultimately they're going to cut you out of the equation.
All of our platforms, we focus that we've got voice control. You want any type of smart home solution that we can offer to our buyers, we can give you voice control. We're just, we look at the voice control as it's essentially another user interface. It's not a complete system. Yep. So, it goes to educating the buyer.
Yep. I think we have time for one more question.
John, I think we should probably wrap up.
All right. So John has a script to read. First of all, let's thank the panel. Let's thank iDevices for sponsoring breakfast in this presentation.